Welcome to She Sells Radio. So I've got to tell you, this conversation today blew my mind. My guest today on the podcast is Julie Ciardi. And if you are a woman who is, or anyone, woman, man, I don't care, however you identify, but I'm telling you, if you are ready to make some bold moves in your life, in your business, you are going to want to learn from Julie and listen in on this podcast. So if you're not familiar with Julie, I was blown away by her. And we share so much just in terms of mindset, like money frequency, all this stuff. So Julie is a former Fortune 500 marketing VP turned multi-passionate entrepreneur, and she hosts a podcast called Ignite Your Side Hustle. So she has been a top performer in corporate as a working mom, by the way, and then went on to have multiple successful businesses as an entrepreneur. But she shares on the podcast, this is something I loved, her standout breakout formula, because she found a way to achieve success at the six-figure, multiple six-figure, and now on to seven-figure level in all of these different formats. And what she shares is it all came down to the same basic mindsets and principles. So regardless of what you're doing, whether you're in corporate and you're in sales and you're like, I just want to crush it in my sales role, whether you're leading a team, whether you're launching a side hustle, or you're already an entrepreneur and you want to take it to the next level, this formula and what Julie teaches is exceptional. So I was literally like pounding the table while Julie was talking because I felt like I was in mindset church and it was so good. And you're going to absolutely love learning from her. So I want you to go ahead and get out a pen and paper because this is one where you're going to want to write down a lot of just amazing one-liners that she drops. And you're going to want to dig in and just get ready to be uplifted, be motivated, and to have your mindset, especially around sales, making money, and doing things your own way, be blown. So with that, let's welcome Julie Ciardi to She Sells Radio. Julie, welcome to She Sells Radio. I feel like we have so much in common already, from sales to mom life, although you're a little farther along on that journey than I am. And I'm so lit up and excited about what you're doing to help women make more money, launch their side hustle. And I know I'm going to learn so much from you. So welcome, my friend. This is so exciting and such an honor to have you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Elyse. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, I have a feeling we could talk for days. So I'm excited to see where this conversation goes.
We totally could. I know. And as we were getting going, I was like, as we record, I've got a tornado warning. And so my fingers are crossed that we can talk as long as we need to here, because I could talk to you for days to just to find out like how you've helped women make so much money, launch their side hustle, your own personal journey. So my guess is, because you've built such a rockin' brand, my guess, Julie, is that a lot of my listeners may already be following you. If they're not, though, if they're new to you, can you tell us a little bit about your backstory? I know you had a very successful corporate career, transition to become an entrepreneur, but tell us about kind of your backstory and what got you to where you are.
Yeah, no, I would love that. It's one that is interesting because I think a lot of people get stuck in thinking what they should do. And that was me. I was on the what I should do path. And I really had no idea that this whole online entrepreneur world existed, or that we had more opportunity than we think. And so I was kind of on that typical path of, corporate, climbing the corporate ladder. Not feeling fulfilled though. I knew something was missing. And I was in a Fortune 500 for 18 years. 18 years. The last role that I had there was vice president of marketing, and it was a big job. And I, was making a lot of money. Primary breadwinner. My husband, God bless him, just retired as a police officer, but he's a police officer. And I was making 4 times his salary. And so when I kind of came around and was like, so I'm not really that happy. And I really think I'd like to do my own thing. It was as a woman, because I know you talk a lot about this, right? I went through a lot of guilt, of back and forth of, do I go pursue my own thing? Because I mean, 4 times the salary, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
But
How did you get past that? I'm curious because
yeah,
there, like, that
yeah.
was, I know it was part of my journey. A lot of women struggle with that too.
Yeah, it was hard, but at the same time, I just, once that idea was firmly implanted in my soul, I was like, I'm leaving. Like, I need to do my own thing.
Mm.
And we got creative. I kind of went to task to figure out, well, how could we do this? And we kind of at least, it's like you're on this path of like always upward, especially if you're like a high achiever and all the things, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to be a manager and then a director and then a vice president. And, we're going to have this house and then the bigger house and then this, right? And so everything's on this upward path. And I said to my husband, I said, I know that we're on this upward path, but what if we took a little step back so we could go up a different path, a different hill. And that's exactly what we
Yes.
did. And it was kind of crazy. People thought we were insane. My husband was very on board until like my first year into entrepreneurship. And he's like, so when's this money coming that you're telling me was going to be coming? Right. So
So you
initially he was very
left.
supportive. Oh, it was
Yeah.
big.
So
I mean,
so
yeah,
you left and you didn't have clients coming? Because that's, I think, one thing too that people get caught up on is like, I have
no,
to
I
replace my
did.
income.
No,
Okay.
I
Yeah. So
did. But
yeah.
I guess it was probably a 2.5 year journey of leaving corporate once I decided that I was going to do it. And I really,
Mm.
people always ask, well, what's the right way? There is no right way, right? You got to decide what's right for you. For some people, it's I'm jumping and we'll see what happens. For us, because I was the primary breadwinner, that was not going to be the case. So we really put a plan together. One of the things, we were meeting with our accountant and he said, well, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. And it just got into my head. I was like, we have this huge house. I'm like, am I going to be handcuffed to a huge house and I have to stay in this job that I can't stand for, basically this house and all the expenses? And so I went to my husband. I said, what if we moved? And, my three kids at the time, the little guy was a baby, but the other two, they were like in that preteen stage, and all those things. And I didn't want to take them out of school or anything like that. But I said, what if we just downsized for a bit? Like, what if we just like downsize? And why do we have to be stuck in this big house? And that's exactly what we did. We ended up downsizing and we reduced our taxes and our mortgage by 60%,
Wow.
60%.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and that was the biggest piece to be able to take a step back so that it could afford me because I was kind of on this path of let's reduce our expenses where we can while I'm building my exit strategy by
Mhm.
building my business on the side while working. And then we'll be at a point where, financially sounder approach, if you will, a more sound approach to be able to officially make that leap. And
Yeah.
that was like a 2.5 year journey.
Well, and something I want to point out too from what you said, because I work with a lot of women and I have a lot of women I know who listen, who are, a lot of them are the breadwinner. And a lot of them are, so that this show is not all about like, how do you leave corporate and launch your side hustle? Because I've got a lot of women who are in corporate and are happy and want to just learn to sell in a more aligned way. But
Yep.
there are also, I know, a lot of women and men who are listening, who are interested in doing their own thing. And what I found, I was actually having a conversation maybe a week ago with a friend of mine who's making multiple six figures in corporate, and she's really feeling called to go out and launch her own business. And she was feeling a lot of fear around, would she be able to make that money again? And one of the things that we talked about, and I think this just kind of sounds like your journey too, is that job is not your source. So when you're at, like, I believe everyone has a financial frequency. She's already bringing in multiple six figures through that job. That's her financial frequency. Now, would there be, if she just left and started over, would there be a period of rebuilding? Of course, but that's naturally, it's kind of like we all have like a weight set point. We also have a financial set point. Now, I'm all about busting through to the next level of that set point, but to helping her realize that that job is a channel for money, it's not her source, and that she can create that money or more, and probably will, in whatever path she goes to. So was that on your mind at all while you were kind of making this leap, like really owning that you knew you'd make the money regardless of where you were?
Well, what's so funny, Elise? No. So here's the
Mm,
interesting thing. It's like this imperfect action, right? We take imperfect action because we're following our intuition, we're following our gut. We know that there's, whether it's in your job, in like you're wanting to do your own thing, we don't know. We never know, right? It's got
yeah.
to take imperfect action to figure it out. And it's so funny because back then, so I guess that was 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I still didn't have a lot of belief that this online entrepreneurial space was like legit and really an opportunity. And I also thought it was going to be harder than doing what I ended up doing, which is crazy. I ended up opening a brick and mortar boutique. So what happened for me is I didn't have that frequency with the money. What ended up happening is, well, like I wanted to leave that job. And I decided, I actually went the other way. I was like, I'm actually okay making less money to be happy. I kept
Mm,
saying, I just want freedom. I just want to be happy. I don't want to be tied, to corporate. And it's so funny because the second I created the boutique, and you're going to laugh because I kind of proved your exact point in launching the boutique. Okay. Um, I got to 6 figures in revenue in literally 3.5 months in
mm,
that boutique, which again, that's not in your pocket. With a boutique, it's, very, very low profit margin. But it was like I very quickly proved like very fast success, right? Because
yes.
that's where I rise to, which
Hmm.
is exactly what you're saying, right? But here's what happened to me. So I did it and it was a blast. It was fun. It was great. But then I was like, oh yeah, this isn't really where I was meant to land.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
no, 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 you were just leading a team of like 250 people, marketing, leader, like you're not meant to be here. But it was a stepping stone of belief that I needed to go on. I didn't quite have the belief yet on this online entrepreneurial space, or honestly, the belief that I could make money kind of doing it my way and on my own
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
an online capacity. So I thought I had to be like every entrepreneur I ever knew growing up. We didn't even call them entrepreneurs. They were like small business owners, right? There was no entrepreneur. It was small business owners, and that's all I knew. And so I still had this disconnect. I mean, when you're in corporate, your exposure to the kind of either the online entrepreneurial space or even being your own, contractor, where you are a consultant, to companies. I didn't have a lot of visibility to that. I was so in the corporate world that I was in, like I just didn't even know that that was possible.
Right.
But the moment I started to see it was possible, my everything just went up a whole other level in terms of what I wanted. And
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, wait a minute. Like
Yeah.
I know I have what it takes to create my own thing now. I've proven it to myself and all the things. So I ended up, I sold the boutique and I went all in on my own business.
Yeah.
And
Business.
it's a perfect combination. It's the perfect, I really believe, our journey unfolds exactly the way that it's supposed to unfold because the pieces build on itself so you can help others.
Well,
So,
and I want to, if I
yeah,
can just
yeah,
pause really quick on what
please.
you said there, because I think there's something else that's so important in what you're saying. A lot of the women who I coach and work with we've been talking about it this week. I was hosting a masterclass, and a lot of the women were saying they're afraid to take action to do the thing that they feel called to do because they're afraid if they do it and it doesn't work out the way they thought it would, that then their dream is gone. And what we talked about, which I hear in your story of opening this boutique and then realizing, oh, that wasn't actually what I'm being called to do, is it's the next step. And I always use the analogy of like, it's like you're walking down a dark hallway and you see this door illuminated at the end, and you think that's your goal and your dream. So you're walking towards it, you're walking towards it, you're walking towards it. And as you walk towards it, you see there's this door on the left that's wide open that is actually everything you ever wanted is in there, but you wouldn't have known it was there unless you had taken those steps. And I think in your story of just that imperfect action and launching the boutique and then realizing this wasn't actually exactly what I wanted, but I bet that as you look back on your journey, had you not done that, you probably wouldn't be where you are today with your
Oh,
online business, right? What would you say to that?
definitely not. And here's the
Yeah.
interesting thing. So I'd already had all that corporate experience, my MBA, understanding marketing and strategy and all the things, leading people. I, led a team of like 250 people globally, all the things. Did the boutique, but before I even did the boutique, I kind of dabbled in network marketing because I was bored. I mean, like here I'm vice president of marketing, and I'm like, I'm bored. Like I want to use my creativity. And so I dabbled in network marketing for fun. Like
Mm,
the money was not anything, but I had fun with it. I was really like, I had success very quickly with it. But even then I was like, yeah, but this isn't what I want to do. So like dabbled in that, did the boutique, and then realized, no, I really wanted to coach other women to go after their dreams and everything. But here's the funny thing. the women I work with, I know what it's like to build a network marketing business. I know what it's like to
Mm,
build a brick and mortar. I know what it's like to build an online business. I was also in corporate. My clients, like I connect with them at every level because they're all in those different places. So I really
yes.
believe, you know, the journey happened for a reason that way because as I'm helping the woman in network marketing, I've been there. I know what it takes. I know what I did. I know how I got to the top 2% of that company for fun, for crying out loud, right? And like I, the brick and mortar boutique, like it was all on purpose
Yes.
because I understand what it takes. And the really fascinating thing, this is what's really interesting. I ended up writing a book because how I got to the top of the Fortune 500, how I got to the top 2% of that network marketing company I was in, how I got to six figures in revenue in less than 4 months in a brick and mortar boutique that was totally off the beaten path. There was no foot traffic coming into
Yeah.
that place. Okay. And then quickly growing a, you know, multiple six going into seven figure coaching business. Okay.
Yeah.
It was all the same. Like they're all different, the how, the tactics can be different,
Right.
but the approach of how I approached it was very much similar. And I call it
What
the
were,
standout breakout formula because it's
okay.
like there's certain things especially from like a personal brand standpoint, it doesn't matter if you are in corporate or it doesn't matter where you are, right? It's how are you showing up and how are you standing out and how are you serving and what you have that power to do that, and it's the same formula.
So
It's
tell
the
us
same
about that.
formula.
Yeah, I'm super intrigued now. So standout breakout formula, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
And so, whether it's funny because when I think about both the network marketing business, the brick and mortar, and then of course the online business, but I use this, and it's funny because I did this in corporate too. I worked my personal brand at all times in all of my businesses.
Mm.
So I was really clear on the image, that an image in a good way, like me being me. I think one of the funniest things about me in corporate is I stood out like a sore thumb. Like I was like totally not like the norm. And women especially flocked to me. They wanted me to mentor them and things because they're like, you're doing this differently. Yep, I am. I'm doing it
Mm.
differently. I have certain values. There's certain, like, I like to have fun. Like the company that I was in, there was not a lot of fun. Like, just wasn't a fun place, but I always brought fun. Like, I was like, this is a core value of mine, right? So, understanding who you are, what makes you tick, what is unique about you, and bringing that to the table, no matter where you are. One
How
of the
did
things,
you go ahead. I've got a question, but go ahead.
yeah, well, I was just going to say, like, with the company that I was in, the corporate culture of it, it was very set paths, right? Like set path on how you get to be executive, right? And this is the
Mhm.
path. And I said no at every turn. And everyone kept telling me, if you say no, you're not going to get to the next level. And if you say no, you're not going to get to the next level. And every time I stayed true to me. And I'll never forget, I was a manager wanting to get my first promotion to executive. And my daughter's I was her soccer coach. Okay. And 4-year olds playing soccer. And I'm sitting in a boardroom, like a corner office, wasn't mine. I'm the lowest person on the totem pole sitting in that room. And one of the senior vice presidents, female, the meeting is going on. Like, I mean, we're talking now, it's like an hour and a half later than it's supposed to be going. The soccer balls are in my car. Okay. I'm the coach, 4-year-old soccer. I don't care. It's 4-year-old soccer. It's my daughter. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm the lowest person in the room. And all of a sudden I'm just like, I'm sorry, excuse me. So I need to run. I'm the soccer coach and I got to go and blah, blah. I left the room and the senior vice president turned to my boss and said, I thought you said she wanted to be an executive.
Mm.
She told me after. Funniest thing is that senior vice president is the one that gave me my first executive promotion. So
Yes.
I have always shown up. I took long, long maternity leaves. My kids are now 17, 15, and 7. Those older two, I had all three of them while I was in corporate. Um, I took a 9.5 month leave.
Love it.
Then came back part-time. They're like, if you come back part-time with the second one, like you realize you're not going to get a promotion. Like I kept being told at every turn, if you make this decision, chances are this won't happen or this won't happen. didn't stop me because, and I really want people to hear that, because you can do it your way. You got to show up and give a ton of value and be literally, instrumental in your role, right? Got to show up and do that. But you know what? I had boundaries, and I also was going to be me.
How did
And
you
that's
get,
key.
so I just want to ask, because I
Yeah.
think this is so big. And I
Yeah.
know women are wondering, like, how did you get the confidence to do that? Because those are big risks to take, right?
Yep.
Whether it's a risk like you did in corporate of doing it your own way, or even market, like I have a lot of conversations with women, no doubt, like you do, about like the quote unquote risk of putting yourself out there, which is really exactly what will create your success. But that's, anyway, how did you get the confidence to do it? Did you struggle with that and you like push through it, or was it just natural to you?
Priorities.
Okay. Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that it was confidence. I wanted to throw up when I was in that corner office, and like, I'm like, oh gosh, I really have to get up and leave right now. And like, I know this, I got to just do it. It was really priorities. I wasn't willing to sacrifice myself and my priorities for anybody else.
Mm.
And I was willing, it's a willingness. It wasn't a confidence as much. It was like this willingness to, like, worst thing that could happen is I don't get that promotion. I don't get this. And maybe I need to, like, find a different job or whatever. But it was always this willingness to, like, go for it, So
Yes.
whether it was, I remember I declined, like, one of the big stepping stones to becoming an executive in this company was, like, you become this, like, they call it an executive assistant. It's called an EA, but it's not that. It's like you are, like, side by side with a senior leader, and you are traveling wherever they're traveling, and you're like, you're like basically learning by, just being
Sure.
surrounded, and like you literally have no life for like a solid year to 18 months. And I told, so I was, basically offered twice. And these are really hard to come by. Okay. And
Yeah.
I said no twice because there was no way I was leaving my kids that much.
Oh,
And
wow.
again, every
Mm.
time people are like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, you're crazy, you're crazy. And I will tell you, and someone needs to hear this right now. So that's why I always feel like in these podcast interviews, I don't know if you feel like this too,
Yes.
even like the best laid things you're going to talk about, it's like it bubbles up to the surface, kind of like what
Yeah,
people hear.
totally.
um, I was on maternity leave with my third, and I was taking a 6 month with him. Now, mind you, I'm already an executive. So
Mm.
once I was a pregnant executive, which I never really saw that around anywhere. And then I was actually taking a 6 month leave with him. And
Okay.
I'm in the car in the back seat with him. He's a little baby in this car seat. And I still can remember it so clearly. We're driving home and I get a phone call, and they want to promote me to vice president. Can you come back a little early?
Oh,
And I turned to my husband. I'm like, I think I might be the first person ever to receive a promotion to vice president while on maternity leave, right?
wow.
And
Mm.
and a long leave. It wasn't a short leave. And I share that because even though I said no to all those things, even though I just showed up and did it my way and said no to a lot of things, I was still a vice president in a huge company, global company, by the age of 39.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's about it. We're kind of like, we go in this we have this like paradigm in our mind, like we have to follow what we're being told, and that's just because that's the only way it's ever been.
Yes. Thank you. Preach it, sister. Preach
And
it,
it's like,
sister.
no, and the women are the worst, and sometimes helping each other.
It's so true. It's
You
so true.
know,
And you're making me laugh. You're making me think about actually just yesterday, I ended up, I was enrolling a beautiful young woman in my program, and she had mentioned my program to her CEO, and her CEO heads up this major financial services company here in Atlanta. And I have like 15 minutes because then I've got to go back into mom mode. And so I'm on this call with her. I'm just supposed to get her information. And she's like, oh, my CEO is actually here. He wants to talk to you about what you could do for the rest of the other women in this company. And I was like, it's so nice to meet you. I've got 5 minutes. and
Yep.
and then I've got to scoot and go back into mom mode, but would love to continue the conversation. And when, at least like 5 years ago would have been too scared to do that. But I think when you set those boundaries and you have so much self-worth that it's like, no, I've got 5 minutes for you here. We'll cover what we can cover. And then if it makes sense, we'll continue. And just knowing that like you make your own rules, you set your own boundaries, you are worthy of whatever you desire. It shifts the paradigm. So I love that you said that, because I think I see so many women struggle with that. And clearly you're setting such a great example of just having super intact, healthy boundaries and enough self-worth that you know that the opportunities that you actually care about are ones that are going to feel like a hell yeah in your body, like no sacrifices on your part.
Yes.
So I just wanted to point that out. Yeah.
Totally.
Mm,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. And it was interesting too, because, I always tell people that it's not, none of this is a straight line. Okay. It's like, leaving corporate, going to the first thing, that wasn't quite the right thing, going to the next. Here's the funny thing, I'm sure you see it too for yourself and even your clients. Then you kind of get to that next and you're like, okay, so now what, how does this look moving forward? It's always growing. It's
Yeah.
always morphing. That's kind of like the beauty of all this. So whether you're in corporate or you have your own business or whatever, just like that, the fact that we have the ability, we're not stuck. We have the ability to create the experience we want these things to be, whether it's corporate or it's your own. And it's always going to be morphing and growing. And I think that that's actually an awesome part of it. Cause I can remember people be like, I'm so confused. Wait, you just left corporate, you did the boutique, and it was like 2 years later, and like you're selling it. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, I'm on to bigger things. And
Yes.
a lot of people, that's very uncomfortable for them. They've been stuck kind of in, well, they've always been on this path and like this is how it is. And so, I'm sure people that are listening to your podcast, there are people that are not afraid to like the next thing and to morph and to change and to pivot. And it's okay,
Yes.
but a lot of people aren't going to understand because it's kind of scary to them. Like people were like, you are leaving that job. I mean, it was like, you could palpably feel their fear and it had
Mm,
nothing to do with them,
yeah.
but it did.
Well, yeah. And that's why I think you've got to be careful who you talk to, things like getting advice from people, right? And perspectives, because so many people are in fear. But you, like what I'm hearing, what you said is like you trusted your instincts and your intuition. And that's what it is, because nobody else has to live your life but you. And so it sounds like you had such healthy, intact intuition that you said, this is what I'm feeling called to do. And I'm going to do it as long as I feel called. And then I'm going to do the next thing and trust that it's faith, right? You're supported, you're cared for.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which on that note, I feel like something that might, be helpful for your audience. When I was in corporate, I feel like I didn't have kind of this surrounding of people that I could really identify with on having dreams and these
Yeah.
goals and all of the things. And so what I think is a shame is that it wasn't until I started to pursue doing my own thing that I got exposed to, whoa, oh my gosh, there's like masterminds, there's coaches, there are other women doing things. I want every woman in corporate to know you can have that too. And so I love what you're doing because
Mm,
I really feel like I didn't, even only just 5 years ago, know that any of this was here. And it's like we get stuck in, well, my company provides this kind of leadership training, and my company has this mentor. And like you're just stuck in the four walls of your corporate world.
yeah.
But there's so much else out there. And to have other women, especially that you can mastermind with, that you can get that support, that you can share, it's just, I wish all women in corporate just knew what existed, and you don't have to have made the choice that you are going to do your own business
Yeah.
to have that.
That's such a good point, Julie. Yeah, that's such a good point. So I'm curious, what are and I know I will keep you on forever if we're not careful. So
I know.
I want to be mindful of time. But so the standout breakout formula, because I did want to find out, and maybe it's something where they join your Facebook group and can kind of
Yeah,
get
it's on
involved with the rest of it.
Amazon. Yeah, it's
Oh,
on
beautiful.
Amazon.
Okay. Yeah. Any other key elements of that you think are important, especially for, a woman a lot of my women who are listening are looking to break six figures or beyond. So anything else that you think is maybe like one or
Yeah.
two other elements of that you think would be helpful?
Yes, we started with one and we never got past the one. It was
Personal brand.
about you, right? And the personal
Yeah.
brand. I think the other big thing is certainty.
Mm,
So really having certainty and a crystal clear goal, like of what you're going towards and why, and that certainty in it. So whether it's your if you're in corporate, then, just that certainty of where you're trying to go, and why, and it being yours, not because that's what you think you're supposed to do next, but you really like have this core belief, like, this is what I want to do. Because when you have that certainty, it kind of creates this burning desire inside of you. And when you have a burning desire, you will do the work. You will do what you
Yes.
need to do. You'll be persistent, all of those things. If you're like, it
Uh-huh.
gets really hard to get that success,
Yes.
because the success comes from, there's lots of different philosophies on, law of attraction and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but it really just comes down to the basics. When you have this burning desire and you're really clear, you've got this certainty of what it is that you want, you're going to show up and take effective action.
Yes.
And when you do that, you're going to get met and you're going to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. If you're like, I guess that would be nice, you're not going to go through what you need to go through. You're not going to be persistent. You're not going to show up and take the right actions. And some people get stuck and they're like, well, I'm not making the money that I wanted to make. Well, are you really doing what you really should be doing? Because if
Mm.
you are so certain and you feel very aligned to what you're pursuing, it comes. The money
Yes.
100% flows. I think people get stuck when they don't have that certainty.
Yes.
Um,
I agree.
I feel like that's really key. I think that the other big one is consistency, right? So what happens is, and I see this whether it's on the entrepreneurial side or even back in the corporate world. I used to mentor a lot of people on the corporate side. Everyone wants things to happen faster than they're going to happen.
Mm.
It's especially now, just the world we live in. Everything's quick. Success, I always say it's like there's no overnight success, but there are overnight breakthroughs. There are
Yes.
overnight breakthroughs all the time. But what we don't see ahead of it is the hard work that comes before that overnight breakthrough. And it's like a hockey stick, whether you're working really hard in a corporation or you're putting in the time, in your own, business, you're going to be kind of feeling like you're a bit flatline as you're going, and even like take some hits here and there. People stop short. They stop short of where the hockey stick goes whoop, right up.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
overnight breakthrough. And it's like, there's no one lucky there. And it so rarely happens, right? It's, you gotta, and I heard this the other day and I was like, this is so true. The whole point of a goal is growth.
Yes.
It's the process of growth. It's not actually hitting the goal, because once you hit the goal, you're on to the next, right? So if the process is growth, you got to be prepared for the work required, right? If it happened overnight, it's kind of like lottery winners. Most lottery winners lose it all. Why do they lose it all? Because they never went through the growth required.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
why you got to go through that growth. It's just part of it. So people stop short. I see it all the time. Like, oh my gosh, you got to stay consistent and be in it for the long term. Yes, you can put a time frame down. Like, I want to get this promotion by this date, or I want to leave my company by this date and start my own thing. But if it should pass, if you're still taking effective action, let it come. It just
Yes.
wasn't exactly the time. But what happens is people go, I didn't hit it. This didn't happen. Forget it. And people stop.
Oh my
Don't
gosh.
stop.
You're preaching right now, sister. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
because
Yes.
I
Yes.
see it and
Yes.
it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And then what happens
Mm.
is that people they decide, well, I'm going to try this instead. Maybe this is easier, or maybe this is an easier path. None of it's an easier path, right? It's
Right.
like, don't choose the easier path, because it's usually not anyway. You're just
Mm.
not giving it the time required.
Yes.
You gotta show up, be consistent, have the faith. If it's something that you really want, it's going to happen. You just can't
Yes.
fall short of the goal line. And I just see that
Yes.
all the time.
I freaking love what you're saying right now. It's so true. And I love how you said there's no overnight success, but there are overnight breakthroughs. I love how you
Yes,
change that, because you hear that all the time. Like, there's no such thing as overnight success, but no one talks about the fact that yes, there actually are overnight breakthroughs. And I
totally.
believe you had the experience of going from like $10,000 launches, $10,000 launches to $100,000 launch. I just recently had that
It's a
same experience.
$200,000 launch.
$200,000. And it's like that, it does happen. But you have to, for me, at least, it was the inner game. It was like, I had to remove the resistance around receiving that bigger amount of money. I had to get that certainty in place. I had to feel worthy of it. And that was for me, a 35-year process of getting to that point where that overnight breakthrough could happen. but it's like when you look back at everything, it's been building to that, and it's so easy to throw in the towel, but everything has an incubation period. And, the time it takes for a kangaroo, I don't know why this example is coming to mind, but I think it's like a couple weeks for a kangaroo to like have their baby versus a human baby's 9 months. It's just, everything has a different gestation period. So you have to kind of know what you're creating, and the period of it may be longer depending on how much resistance you have around it and where you're
And you're
starting
going to
from.
go through it. Can I bring you
Yeah.
a quick quote? Because I'm
100%.
a
Yes.
big on, like,
You can
I'm
say
like
whatever you want, Julie. I'm just going
I'm
to let
a
you talk.
voracious reader. And I am just always a student of like the mind and mindset
Yes.
and success and all the things. And so there's this little book, it's super tiny. It's called As a Man Thinketh by James
Mm,
Allen. There were a lot of really interesting books that were written in the early 1900s, like
yes.
Think and Grow Rich and all of these things all around the same time. And so there's one quote, and they're all right. Like
Yeah.
nothing has changed. It is like they are gold. I have it right behind me, Think and Grow Rich behind me. It's like, it is such gold. Well, here's a quote from As a Man Thinketh, but I'm going to put a woman's perspective on it.
Love
Okay.
it.
So I'm
Yeah.
just going to change the pronouns here. So even if she fails again and again, as she necessarily must, until the weakness is overcome, the strength of character gained will be the measure of her true success. And this will form a new starting point for triumph and success. So it's saying that if you want to get to where you want to get to success wise, not only are you going to fail again and again, I don't love the word fail. I think
Yeah.
we would look at it now like as lessons we're kind of learning along the
Totally.
way. But it's saying as she necessarily must, because here's why. This is the same thing with the lottery winners, right? You've got to work the weakness out. We all
Mm,
have, like, some people call it limiting beliefs, some people call it whatever it may be. If we don't work those things through and we learn them and work through them through the process, we're never going to get to that strength of character, right? To be able to actually get to that breakthrough. And that's when the breakthrough happens. The breakthrough happens when that weakness is overcome and we get that breakthrough. That's
yes.
it every
Yes.
time. It's
Yes.
like, but you don't know it when you're in it,
No.
but that
Mm.
is how this works.
It is. You're
Yeah.
100% right. Gosh, that's so good. I've never heard it said that way before. You've got to work the weakness out.
Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh my
Yep.
gosh. And
Yep.
I think that's part of the value, and we'll kind of wrap up here,
Yeah.
but
I know, but you
that's
could talk
part of the,
forever.
oh my gosh, no, this is so good. This is so good. I think that's part of the value of just who you're surrounded by. For me, like when I was making my kind of leap from 6 to 7 figures, I was like, I know that there's something in my thinking that has me stuck at the 6 figure level. So I need to be around around women who are earning 7 figures so I know how they think. And it's to what you said, like being around people who think differently than you, who see things differently, who can even shine a light on maybe there's a weakness that's holding you back, that you're so in it, you just don't even know that it's optional. Like it's been your whole life. You don't know that maybe there's another way to think or another way to approach it. So
Yes.
I'm obsessed with that. Yeah. I'm
Yes,
so
it's
obsessed
so
with that.
true.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
think, just to everyone listening, I know we're going to wrap here. The biggest thing that I want people to know is that we have more possibility in each of us than we can even begin to imagine. And the only way to start to uncover it is taking that scary imperfect action, whether it's that promotion that you're like, ooh, like I'll never forget when I was first becoming a director. And then when I was becoming a vice president, like, who's did I pull wool over someone's eyes? Like, really, like they're going to put me in charge of all these people. And so many people like that were older than me. And it's never going to be the perfect time for anything.
Mm,
You're never going to feel ready ever. Like, you
no.
never feel ready. And you never know what's actually possible inside of you. So it's like you take that scary step when you're not ready. And it's amazing what you will actually show that yourself that you're capable of.
Yes.
You have no idea though until you take the scary step and you step into it. It's
Oh
like
my
you're
gosh.
never going to be ready.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I'm so lit up about everything you're saying. Yes. Julie, I have one final question for you,
Yeah.
and then I want you to tell everyone where they can find out about your book, your programs, all of that. If there's a woman who is really, really like, she is laser focused and she's like, I'm going to break through my first 6 figures this year, what would be your number one top piece of advice to her?
Oh my gosh. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Just like keep doing what you're doing. What I see people do is they keep, oh, let me change this strategy. Let me change this strategy, especially in online entrepreneurship. It's well, I'll try this. And then well, that's it. I'm going to try this. The bouncing back and forth, put things on repeat, being repetitive in what you're learning, what you're putting out there, how you're showing up. Repetition is so important. It's something that people honestly forget.
Yeah.
That, I gotta try something different now. No, you got to give time, become a master at whatever it is you're doing. And the only way that we become a master, of our craft or whatever, is repetition. I always
Mhm.
joke because I'm a huge Tom Brady fan and I grew up in the Boston area. And he still, after all these years, he still works with a coach to do the one move of releasing the football.
Mm,
Releasing the football. I mean, that one move, you talk
wow.
about repetition. You do not become a master unless you are repeating even the simplest things
Yeah.
over and over again. And so if you want to stand out in your business or you want to stand out in your company, become a master at some part of what you're doing, have that repetition. That's going to help you stand out and become indispensable and get that promotion, or be so consistent in the marketplace as an entrepreneur that you just become known for
Yeah.
this, for that, right?
Yes.
That's
Oh my
huge.
gosh. That's so good, Julie. That's so good. So please tell everyone where they can connect with you, where they can find out more about your book, your programs. I would
Yeah.
assume they're going to want to.
Absolutely. I mean, the book is on Amazon, Standout Breakout Formula. I love to connect with people on Instagram. I was going to say join my Facebook group, but you know what? I love to connect personally with people.
Yeah.
All the things are on Instagram. So if you go to Julie Ciardi on Instagram, I have all the links for different things. Or DM me. I'd love to hear what did you take away from this? Anything I
Yes.
can clarify further. I have my podcast too, Ignite Hustle, and it's I'm a huge fan of helping people to this mindset stuff is so key. So we really focus a lot into that podcast on the mindset of how to be able to kind of bust through, break to that next thing that you're trying to
Yeah.
accomplish. So yeah,
Oh,
any of those is great.
that's so great. Yeah. And definitely like take a screenshot of this as you're listening or if you're watching on YouTube or my website, tag both Julie and me, let us know that you were listening and what your number one takeaway was. Send Julie a DM, send me a DM, let us know what you learned. Cause I learned so much and I love your energy. I love your enthusiasm. Everything you said resonates so deeply in my soul and my body. And I'm so grateful for the work you're doing in the world and for how you showed up for us today, Julie. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You're incredible.
Thank you. And can I say thank you to you because you're caring about our corporate ladies? I'm just so
Mm.
thankful for that because I wish when I was back in corporate that I don't even think it really even existed to help people in corporate with
Yeah.
amazing people like you. So I just really want to appreciate you and call you up
Mm.
for just remembering our amazing women that are just because they're not starting their own business, they're doing big, amazing
Yeah.
things. And the
Yes.
more women we have running all these companies, well, it just everything will be better. So
Yes.
thank you for that.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's is just whoever the woman is as she feels more empowered, more capable of creating the outcome she wants to create in her sales, her business, and her life, everything shifts. So yeah, huge takeaways for me today. Thank you again, Julie, and everyone listening. Go follow Julie, check out her book, connect with her on Instagram. If you like this type of inspiration, you're absolutely going to want to go connect with her further. Wishing you a beautiful rest of your week. And we will see you next week for the next episode of She Sells Radio. Bye for now.